This podcast is for you. Your co-hosts, Ben Dodge and Eric Huso at Effect Epic Consulting, believe that your potential is limitless. Tapping into this potential is how you can affect epic results in your life, relationships, and business. Welcome to the Principles of Epic Growth.
Brother, good morning.
Good morning, hermano.
It's a beautiful day in paradise.
For those of you that don't speak Spanish like me, I do know a couple words, and hermano is one of them, and it's Spanish for brother.
Hermano,
I've called you that for as long as I can remember, actually.
Yeah.
Hermano, ¿qué pasa? I don't even know what that means, brother or something.
How's it going, brother?
Yeah, there you go. Okay, perfect.
We need to take a road trip down to Mexico again.
Remember the sailboat?
Oh, yes. The best part of the sailboat was the street tacos on the way down.
Yeah, being stranded out in the ocean for a day and a half. Not good.
Yeah, I don't do water, so yeah, that was a great memory.
Great memory.
Today we are going to be talking about another principle that will bring great power to you. It's a principle that will seem simple when we first talk about it, but as you listen and dig in, you'll see the depth of it, and that is the power of choice. Every single human being, what makes you different from every other mammal on the planet is your ability to choose. So we have this ability to choose, and unfortunately, a lot of people are asleep to the fact that they've given away their power to choose. And so,
what do you mean?
Well,
that deserves a little digging.
Yeah, that's what we're going to do today. We're going to dig into this. So, if you're not happy, if you're in a situation, if you're employed by someone and you're just not aligned and you just go to work every day miserable, then you've given away the power of your choice. If you're in a relationship and it's miserable and it's just grinding, you've given away the power of choice. You're just in that relationship because you were in it yesterday, so I might as well be in it today. And you're in that job today because, well, it's my job and I need this paycheck. And you've given away the power of choice. And so when you give away the power of choice, you just shrink as a person. You don't see possibilities. You become blind. You shrivel and shrink and become blind. So that's
I have a 2-word label for people that give up the power of choice.
I can't wait to hear it.
Victim mentality.
Yeah.
Dude, I hate that, by the way. It's nails on a chalkboard for me. So in some of my businesses, like one of my law firms where we help people through family law issues, divorce and child custody and so forth, I'll often interview these potential clients and see if we can't help them. And in that process, I've been known on many occasions to write in the notes, because these notes will serve me later for remembering them and for setting the scene with my staff on how to handle them as a client. I'll write often in the bottom, victim mentality. Because I hear things like, he this, she that, I'm not the one that wants this, I didn't do anything, and it's always blaming and feeling like they're helpless and powerless, and that the circumstances and or the other person is the one that is controlling everything. And they sound whiny. They sound entitled. They sound, it's awful for my ears to hear. And I get that they're in a tough spot. So by the way, we help them, we love them through it, but
and a lot of time they're blind to it. They don't even realize it.
No, yeah.
They don't even realize it because they've slowly given up their choice. They've become enslaved. They become enslaved by their environment. They become enslaved by the situation. And they've just slowly been put to sleep like a slow carbon monoxide death, and they don't even realize it.
So I feel like that's why I can't wait for today, by the way, so we can flesh these out, because I feel like no matter what happens in life, all of us are going to face some pretty incredible, if not ridiculously significant challenges.
Yeah.
And that's just part of being a
Welcome
human
to life.
on this earth, right? And so in so doing, check yourself. Are you all of a sudden feeling more like a victim of whatever's happened? And it could be, the stock market crashed, or the government voted this, and now all of a sudden you're out, or, or whatever, or somebody you got passed over for a job and somebody else got it, or, or again, the billions of different things within a relationship with a loved one. Do you ever feel like a victim there? This is a good question to ask our listeners. or do you feel that you have some sort of control in the scenario, some sort of personal self-control, some sort of disciplined, intentional desire to do something about it? Because that's the difference between somebody who's a victim, and let's be honest, we're not talking about the kind of victim where, you get robbed or worse, raped or some of these things. Like, and even in those examples, as delicate as it is, there's a power of choice to how to react to it afterwards. Okay, but we're talking about the kind of victim that no one likes, the kind of victim where it's whiny, complainy. Oh, I want to have a pity party.
Well, it's me.
Dude, I hate that. So anyways, I can't wait to talk about it today.
One of the great problems with this is when you have this mindset and you're asleep to it, unfortunately, you program that into your children. So unaware, you start to just program this victim mentality into your children, then you raise a whole nother generation that have given up the power of choice. So you're raising human beings that come out into adulthood as sleepwalkers.
And what does every victim want, by the way? Another victim.
Yeah.
I mean, they're magnets for each other, right? Yeah. And there's different cultures and societies, and we're not going to jump into that today, but you can see how they congregate under different kinds of viewpoints, whether it's political or cultural or societal, and they just all get together, right? And it's victim pity party.
Yeah. So our intention today is to help each one of you see the power that comes in choice, and to help you wake up to areas of your life where you've given up choice, where you've given up power. So I've got a couple teenage kids. One's an adult now.
Let's use that term loosely.
He's almost 22.
Just kidding. Yeah. Sorry,
and,
Dallin.
Dallin, I hope you're listening, buddy.
You better.
So, I've got a couple kids that really take strongly after their mother, where you can't tell them what to do. And
just for those of you who aren't here in the room with me, you should see Eric's face. He's like delicately saying this.
Am I going to get in trouble here? Yeah. And so it's a great gift, though, because they're not very influenced by peer pressure, by negative peer pressure to do things. They're really independent in their thinking. They're really, you can't knock them off the path.
Yeah.
Now every strength has a weakness, and the negative side of that is even when people are giving you good counsel, sometimes you don't listen to it because nobody can tell you what to do. So I had to learn in my parenting this skill of letting my children have choice, and not forcing, not imposing my will upon them. And that takes a lot of courage and a lot of faith as a parent to do that. Well, I've got another daughter who's similar to my oldest son, who's really, really headstrong, and this principle made such a huge impact for her, where she has taught her siblings, she's taught her friends this principle of the power of choice, that doing anything is only powerful in that you choose it. So going to school is not beneficial. It's not powerful unless you choose it. Going through the motions, showing up asleep without any clear intention, you're not going to get much out of it.
Oh, for sure. So my high school versus my college.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I was not very benefited in high school by the educational opportunities there.
You didn't choose it.
I mean, this is an overstatement, but I can almost count on one or two hands how many times I actually went to high school, right? Obviously, that's not true, but that's what it felt like. But in college, on the other hand, I was all in, right? Committed, like, hey, this is my way out of whatever lifestyle I was in, and I want something different. Yeah, I agree. Totally.
And so that one thing of you choosing to go to school at the university level then opened up all these possibilities, opened up learning, opened up these amazing experiences that put you where you're at today.
Absolutely.
And had you just gone to college and not chosen it, then I can pretty much guarantee you wouldn't be where you're at today.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So another example, some people love to exercise, some people hate to exercise. Those who love to exercise, nobody has to force you to set your alarm. When that alarm goes off at 5 a.m., you get up because you love to exercise. And, if somebody didn't like to exercise and was told that they had to exercise, like, there's not much worse than when it's cold and dark and the alarm goes off at 5 o'clock. You got to get out of bed. Like, you have no choice there, so you have no power.
So 5 o'clock is sleeping in, just saying.
Well, for Mr. Ben Dodge.
If you get the opportunity to sleep in till 5 in the morning,
What time did you wake up this morning?
3:15.
Oh, crap. You beat me by an hour and a half.
At least.
That extra hour and a half, it was great sleep.
Just teasing you. Well, actually, it's true. I did wake up at 3:15, but still.
So, if you sign up for a marathon, running the marathon's a great experience. If somebody forces you to flee your home and run 26 miles, that sucks. I can remember on an Ironman where the weather was just awful. It was, I think, 2012 where that windstorm came. And so there's tumbleweeds blowing across the street, like 20, 30 mile an hour wind gusts, trash getting stuck in your spokes. Like, it was awful. And I'm like, angry, mad, total victim mindset. Like, who did this to me?
Wait. I remember that year. That's the year that they actually shut down the swim.
Yeah.
Because there was like hurricane force winds.
Yep, 5-foot swells in the lake.
Yeah, and people were literally drowning. They had scuba
pulled
divers.
a couple hundred people out of the water.
My wife was pulled to the surface by a rescue diver, actually.
Yeah.
She was just down there, like, almost out. Yeah, I remember that year.
That was crazy.
A tough year.
So I'm on the bike, and I have this total victim mindset. Like, who did this to me? Just pissed off, And then I actually just made a choice right there. I'm like, wait a minute. Who signed up for this? And that was the year that I signed up. You didn't sign me up. No, I chose this.
That's
I
right.
prepared. I prepared for 6 months for this race, and I'm not going to let a little wind get in the way. Like, I choose to have a great day today. I choose to be happy. I choose to enjoy this, come what may.
That's right.
And it made a huge difference, and we had a great day that day.
Yep.
I mean, the wind still sucked, but it was a great day. So the power is always in your choice. So whatever you're doing, if you notice some kind of victim mentality, some kind of discouragement, you've given away your choice. You've given away that freedom to choose to be, to create, and to do whatever the circumstances that you're in.
I like the statement when we were chatting about this before about how you can wake up to power. So when you wake up to the possibility of choice, regardless of what's happening around you, and if you think it's happening to you, then you've already got something that you got to fix. Think about that. That's deep. If you think it's happening to you as opposed to what's happening around you, then you've got something to fix. Mm-hmm. Mentally, your paradigm is off. You're a victim. Anyways, when you wake up to the possibility of choice, so you still have, one of the things I often say is if you have breath in your lungs still, in other words, if you've got a heartbeat, then you can do something, which means you can choose something, which means you're awake to the possibility that no matter what's happening to you or around you, that you can make a choice.
You can make a difference.
And that's what you meant, I think, earlier when we're talking about how you can wake up to power, because it's powerful to realize that you can choose. It's not powerful, and the better way to say that is it's weak. It's absolutely weak to feel like you can't do anything about whatever it is that's frustrating you.
Yep.
To feel that you literally can't do anything about it is a mistake. I almost want to open a vulnerable door here to people to comment and or email us about, challenge me, challenge Eric, challenge us both on, give us an example.
Yeah.
Give us an example where you think that there's nothing you can do about it. And we'll help you see that the way you're looking at it is most likely completely wrong, and you're a little bit of a victim in that particular issue. Maybe not every element, but in that issue, yeah. And so, anyways, yeah, you can wake up to power, wake up to creation. The power, of course, like you said, is in the choice.
So, and you don't have to spend tons of time deciding what to do. This is one of the challenges that gets people from not choosing, from not acting, and that's they spend lots of time trying to decide. So, you just kind of spin your wheels. Should I do this? Should I do that? Should I talk to my boss? Should I not talk to my boss? A week goes by, 2 weeks goes by, a month goes by. I'm not happy in my marriage. A week goes by, 2 weeks goes by, a month goes by, a year goes by, 2 years go by, where you're just going through the motions. You're just deciding, if I bring it up, it'll make it worse. I might lose. If I talk to my boss, he might fire me. All these things, all this process of deciding prevents people from actually acting. So to get your choice, to have the power of choice, you have to act. And, that just requires action. And think of the things that get in the way of you from acting. Think of the things that slow you down, that prevent you from actually moving in action. That will help you wake up to this opportunity of choice. So, willpower is something that comes from action. A lot of people are like, I don't really have the desire. I don't really have, I don't have the willpower to set my alarm at 3:00 like Ben does and get up and exercise. Well, the cool thing about willpower is actually the result of action. Willpower is the result of choice. A lot of people don't act because they're waiting for that willpower to come. The decision to act creates the willpower.
Yeah, say that again.
The decision to act is what creates the willpower.
This is not a chicken and an egg question, which came first. That's bullcrap. If there's something that you want to do, so we're talking about being clear in your intentions because you're clear on your commitments, right? We're past that. We've already established that, in our lives, and you should too. Go back and listen to those podcasts. When you know what your commitments are, and then you can be clear in your intentions when you take the time to slow down and figure that out, at which point you make the decision. Like inaction is the death of any kind of progress, which really is just a problem with deciding. So like the SEAL said, and we talked about this in a podcast earlier before, I don't remember which one, but even backing a wrong choice is better than not making a choice at all. So I'd rather take massive action in the wrong way than not take any action at all.
Exactly.
And that might sound weird to someone. Okay, fine. Then it's weird to you. But watch me. I'm going to keep taking massive action in my life. And I'll learn from the ones that I went in the wrong direction. I'll turn around and use that same action and desire, intention, commitment to move then in the right direction. And I'll just keep moving. Keep moving, baby. And that massive action is exactly where willpower is resulting or born. Yeah. It's awesome and almost hilarious to see how people get that backwards. Yeah. Like, I don't have the willpower, the determination, the strength, whatever, to fill in the blank, go on a diet, wake up, talk to my boss and tell him what a jerk he is and try and get a raise.
Start a business.
Yeah, start a business. Yeah. Or to successfully keep the business going. Yeah. Starting one's great. That's, you can do 10 of them today if we want to, right? Let's go start 10 businesses. But keeping it going, making them successful, where's the willpower there? The sacrifices required. Yeah, it's action. It's all about action. Action is all about decision.
Yeah. So willpower is the result of that action.
Yes.
Previous podcasts, we talked about self-esteem. We talked about self-worth. Similarly, self-esteem is the result of action. A lot of people are inactive or they don't act. They give up the power of their choice because they don't believe in themselves. Like, I'm not very good at that. I couldn't be somebody who could do that. I don't have a business mindset, or I'm not very athletic, or I'm not this, or I'm not that. And so they use that cover up of I don't have a very strong self-esteem without actually saying that as an excuse to not act. And what you'll find is when you act, you'll actually generate self-worth. Like, that's where your self-worth comes from, is from action.
Yeah, so on that note, by the way, you can't make too many decisions. If you're one of those people that, and this is probably common, just think about this. How many decisions do you not make? How many people do you let in your life make decisions for you? Even at work. Like you might feel like you're responsible for XYZ duties, and yet you'll find yourself constantly checking with coworkers or with your boss or with supervisors, whoever, to get approval for whatever you're trying to do. Just make decisions. And on that note, be prepared that you're going to make some bad ones. Yeah. Because you're not perfect. Like, we're just human beings. But generating your self-esteem and your self-worth is literally a mathematical factor of making more and more decisions. And don't worry about making bad ones. That's okay. You can actually build even greater self-esteem from making a bad decision, owning it, realizing what it was, learning from it, taking that same massive action towards flipping the ship around, so to speak, putting it in the right direction, and boom, now all of a sudden you're becoming this dependable, reliable person, a decision maker, a leader in whatever you're doing. Self-esteem just begets more self-esteem. It's all about action. Remember the story of the kid who struck himself out? He was trying to be a home run hitter. He's pitching to himself. He struck himself out. In other words, he made a ton of bad decisions at bat. What he learned from that is he was one heck of a pitcher, right? To himself. Yeah, absolutely.
So if you're in this spinning cycle of trying to decide, you're not in action, you're just in this deciding, I'm not sure if this is the best choice, not sure if I should go for this job, not sure if I should marry that person. Whether or not a decision is a good decision comes a lot after you've made the choice, after you've gone into action, after you have gone down that path. It's what you choose to do after you've made the decision. It really determines a whole lot if it was a good decision or not. So you decide to change jobs and you go work for another company. Well, was that a good decision or no? A lot of it depends on what you create after you've made that decision. Like how proactive you are, how intentional you are, how committed you are. It's what comes after your decision to act it's the biggest factor of what makes something a good decision or not. And so if you're sitting back wondering, should I do this or should I do that? Yeah, do it. Do it. Act, and then create it as an amazing decision by your choices that follow that.
Yeah, you don't accidentally become successful, and you don't become successful by barely putting your toe in the water, right? When we're talking about decision and action, we're really talking about this in a massive level. Jump in. Yeah, I mean, just jump in. And if you get burned, okay, then you know what was hot that burned you, and learn from it and take that same, degree of massive action, turn the ship around, point in a different direction, and until you keep going in, and keep turning the ship around and keep learning from mistakes until you find out, the one that works for you. I can't tell you how many businesses I started that didn't work.
Yeah,
it's just absolute utter failures. Okay.
It's all right.
Yeah, I've got a lot that do work, right? And only because I learned from all of those mistakes, as opposed to feeling like I was a victim from some economic crisis, and that's why my business. I can't tell you how many times that I get excuses from people about their business not working because of the economy.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. If you say so, but let's be honest, that's not it. That's not it.
Totally. So, you want to be a leader of your life. You don't want to let any outside circumstances be the thing dictating. You want to be choosing. So an analogy that I'd like to use is that of a football quarterback. So football quarterback is the leader of the team. And, if you can picture yourself as the quarterback, and even the best quarterbacks don't have 100% completion rate. Okay? Even the best quarterbacks in the best games of their life don't have a 100% completion rate. So if you can imagine, you're the quarterback, the center snaps you the ball, you take a few steps back, drop into the pocket, you got your offensive line protecting you. You've got a couple seconds to make a decision. You can hit your wide receiver, that's your first option. You can hit your wide receiver, that's your second option. Maybe that guy's covered. You can hit your wide receiver, that's the third option. You can tuck the ball and run, or you can throw it out of bounds. The quarterbacks that can't make the decisions fast, the quarterbacks that hold the ball in the pocket, they're the ones that get leveled by the linebacker. They're the ones that get their head knocked off. Okay? And that same thing happens in life, where if you have given away your choice, if you aren't willing to make a decision, life is going to level you. The economy is going to level you. Your job is going to level you. Your marriage is going to level you. Your kids are going to level you because you're in action. So sometimes option number one isn't available. Sometimes option one, he's covered. And that's just not a choice. You got to quickly see if option two is a choice. And sometimes the best choice is to throw the ball out of bounds for an incomplete pass. Better to throw the ball out of bounds than to get sacked, get your head knocked out. Better to throw the ball out of bounds than to force into double coverage and throw an interception and lose the ball. So it's okay to fail. It's okay to not be 100% successful if you are in action.
Right. I love the personal and business application here, because we don't want to come off as saying you got to just jump on a quick decision irrationally or unintelligently, decide something in almost a stupid fast fashion. But not deciding is the principle that we're talking about, right? Not deciding at all is where you're going to get sacked, basically. Or I'm not a football guy, but I think sacked means tackled, right, or something like that. Okay, sure. Okay. Yeah, you're going to get sacked. Now, look. So in a business and personal application, when you're faced with a decision, the best thing to do is not just decide, but to decide by applying the principles. So run through the principles of commitment, intention, alignment. Some of these things that we've talked about, how you can maintain your integrity through this process. Does it fit your core values? Does it serve your commitments? Some of these things. But that doesn't take weeks. That takes, in some cases, minutes, in some cases, days. Like, it just depends on the significant decision or insignificant decision that you're dealing with, right? And how much time it's going to take. The point, of course, is to decide and to take the action. And the caveat, or not caveat, but the add-on principle would be, just run through these principles while you're making your decision, and you'll make better decisions. And your decision making is like a skill that just gets better and better as you decide more, as you practice it, as you apply the principles and learn more about you and about the world that you're operating in, and the principles as they apply to you. And then you can create this you can be like a finely tuned machine, man. Like, give me a question, I'm going to make a decision. Right? Like, it's cool. And again, self-confidence. The more you decide, the more self-confidence you have, the more self-esteem you build.
The more willpower you have, and the more results you have. This is how you create epic results. Now, Ben, you mentioned a couple things. You said as you go through these decision processes, we're not just talking about acting on a whim. We're talking about being clear on what we're committed to. We're talking about, in our mind, being awake to what our intention is. And so in any situation, if you'll just ask yourself these questions, okay, given these circumstances, okay, we're in an economic downturn. Given these circumstances, what do I want to create? Okay, you're in a situation where you're not happy at work. Given these circumstances, what's my intention here? Like, who am I as a human being? What am I committed to? What do I want to create in this situation? You're in a marriage, and your marriage isn't what you think it should be. Okay, given the circumstances, I'm in this marriage, and it's not aligning for me. What do I want to create? Like, what am I committed to? What's my intention here? And asking yourself those questions and then acting on those answers, now you've got the power of choice back. Now you choose to be married. Now you choose to work. Now you choose to serve.
Yeah, or you choose to work in a certain way, or you choose to be married in a certain way that starts to fix and help resolve your problems. I mean, it's amazing. You don't have to choose to be in a terrible marriage. You don't have to choose to be in a horrible work environment or work for a jerk boss. I mean, but you can choose how to deal with those situations that can eventually present, if not quickly, resolutions for you that you can start working on. And then all of a sudden there's purpose behind what you're doing, and the misery lessens, the resolutions surface, and all of a sudden you're in control. And we're not talking the kind of control where you're some dominant dictator. We're talking about the kind of control where you are in charge of your life.
Yeah, you're actively creating your life.
So what you described to me, and I've probably said this a billion times, and I'm going to say it a billion more times. What you've described to me is what I call the arsonist, right? As opposed to the firefighter. All of us just sometimes get caught in this loop of just reacting to what we have on our plates. And very often in the busy world that we are, that could just be emails like at work that we constantly get stuck on, or tasks, or whatever it is in our relationships. We're just constantly putting out whatever fires there, as opposed to intentionally creating something, right? And that's what you're talking about, is taking the time to, like, okay, what do I want to do with this scenario? What do I want to do with this bad scenario, this trial, this hardship I'm going through? Or what do I want to do today, or whatever? When you stop and think about that, now all of a sudden, instead of being a firefighter, just reacting to whatever problems are presented that day, now you're the arsonist. Now you're the one intentionally doing something, right? And with one match, an arsonist can burn, a whole building down.
Which we don't recommend.
No, we don't want you to go be. We don't want you to go big or go home. Yeah, no, we don't want you to go be an arsonist. But we do want you to think like one. We want you to be super intentional as opposed to just reactionary.
Yeah.
You know, God bless firefighters. They're amazing people, but we want you to be super intentional. We want you to go out there and think about what it is you want to create. You know, I mean, to these guys, right? They're twisted. These arsonists are twisted, but it's artwork to them. It's amazing what they're pulling off, the damage, the destruction, whatever. They actually go through this whole, plan methodically and with precision and intention. And yeah, okay, great. We're not telling you to be destructive, but we are telling you to be intentional, methodical. You know, why don't you set the world afire instead of being the guy that has to put out everybody else's fires?
Yeah. So as we wrap up here today, let's talk about some application here. So for you to identify where you've given up the power of choice, make a list of 3 or 4 things that frustrate you on a consistent basis. What are 3 or 4 relationships? What are 3 or 4 scenarios that frustrate you, where you're just frustrated, okay? In those situations, you'll find that you've given up your choice. You've given up the power that you have within you. And so then ask yourself the question, okay, given this relationship, given this scenario that frustrates me, what do I want to create? Like, what do I want to have happen? Take your choice back. The answer to that question will give you the action, and then act. Act on those choices, and you'll find that you'll create a new situation.
I love it. On that note, just know that acting on choices to improve a bad situation can take a lot of time. Not every bad situation can be fixed with one action.
Correct.
And in one moment. It can take days, weeks, months, years. And I think the best plug for this is our wonderful history lesson from Viktor Frankl, who was a Jewish prisoner in a Nazi prison camp. I mean, it's an incredible story. Most everybody's heard of it.
Yep.
And if you've read it, go back and read his book again, because it's hard to imagine any scenario that any of us are facing in our lives today that's worse than that. Okay, come on. It's not going to happen. He really went probably through the worst possible scenario in mortality that any of us will ever, So look at how he retained his power of choice, even though he was. A lot of people would say every choice was taken away from those guys. I mean, they were stripped naked, be tested on by all kinds of who knows what by these Nazis, imprisoned, humiliated, degraded, whatever, for months, years. This guy though retained his power of choice as to how he was going to live in that scenario, and eventually how he basically improved that scenario and situation for himself, ultimately till it led to his freedom. But the lots and lots of people that he's inspired in that moment, of course, in those moments, and then eventually all of us who still learn from him. But notice that it wasn't an overnight thing. He didn't just wake up one morning to the power of choice and make one decision and take one action and then get his liberation.
Yeah.
I mean, just know that it's an ongoing process, but being present and pursuing that process, working on the improvement of your bad scenario, whatever your personal bad scenario is powerful. And there can be happiness no matter what the circumstances are, in just retaining your power of choice, not being a victim, and doing everything you can to improve it. And it's incredible. Like, you don't have to just make the bad thing go away. I mean, obviously that's the goal someday, but just being engaged in trying to improve it and retaining your power of choice is the difference between happiness and misery.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the biggest lessons from Viktor Frankl, and that it doesn't go overnight sometimes.
Yeah. And the great thing is, when you do that, it not only impacts your own happiness and your own state of being, but it also impacts everyone around you.
And for generations, right? Look at us still learning from these kind of people.
Yeah.
So love it. You the man, Eric. I love doing these with you.
All right, brother.
Love everyone out there, by the way. We appreciate your comments, your emails, the meetings. I mean, gosh, we've met with, I know over the last few days, I've met with somebody every day at lunch, who just wanted to reach out and have a chat with us. So regardless of where you're at in the world, we can always FaceTime you or chat with you, but we sure appreciate all the feedback and the encouragement. We're going to keep these things going. We're having a blast.
All right. Have a great day.
Thanks for listening to the Principles of Epic Growth podcast, your path to epic performance and life with incredible growth.